And welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review. This is Grimm from Steve-O's Falcons. I've had a few patrons from Steve-O's Falcons, and Grimm is no exception. Grimm is also very active in watching live streams and commenting, both in this channel and other channels, so very active in the community. Grimm's been playing for over a year and a half. He's been playing basically about as long as I have. He considers himself a Dolphin, and he doesn't have a whole lot of Zeta pieces and a whole lot of Zeta characters, like 3 or 4 Zeta characters, one of them being Qui-Gon Jinn and his leadership, which is why he's running him in Arena. And it's really hard once you've invested in a Zeta ability to change what you're doing. But when you look at your Arena and you're in the top 200 and you really want to get higher, you got to kind of start to reassess the team that you're using. And a couple of the pieces I would suggest for your new team, my suggestion of teams definitely would still include Old Ben. He's great. And R2-D2, he's great. But I would probably switch out the Jedi, because the Jedi are a very difficult team to maintain position with. And so when I look at your top 3 rows, a couple characters just totally and completely jump out at me. And one of those is Commander Luke Skywalker, of course, right next to R2-D2, and then directly below R2-D2, Han Solo. And Han Solo is phenomenal. And then Old Ben is in the bottom left. Plus you have General Kenobi, which is a really great tank as well. You could use him in place of Old Ben, since you don't have Old Ben Zeta'd. I would say General Kenobi's actually a better tank over Old Ben, unless Old Ben has his Zeta. So General Kenobi's definitely one I would do. Also, I noticed you have a 7-star Gear 11 Grand Admiral Thrawn right there to kind of the top left, right underneath Old Ben. Pretty amazing. And he's got a lot of control and usability. So the team I personally would build would be a CLS lead, R2-D2, Han Solo, and by the way, you're going to want to do for your next Zeta the shoots first. You will be completely blown away by what it does for your Arena. And with Commander Luke, R2-D2, and Han Solo in the front 3, you can then in the back put a couple of characters. You could either go double tank and go to Old Ben and General Kenobi, or you could go General Kenobi and Thrawn. I would recommend for now General Kenobi and Thrawn. Now the team that I'm suggesting with CLS, R2, Han, GK, and Thrawn is the old meta from the last 5 months. It's still a phenomenal team, especially to get into the top 100. Pretty easy to get into the top 100. You have all the pieces. You may have ran this team already and just decided to change out and run other teams, but I'm telling you, the reason why certain teams are meta is because they work, and they work really well. And if you've tried it and don't like it, then just ignore my suggestions. But this team is going to continue to be meta for the next 6 months or more. And so, because CLS is just not going anywhere, he is a phenomenal character. As far as ships, all I can say is you need to get more involved in ships. The 896 fleet rank tells me that while you farm ships, you're probably not nearly as active, or you weren't nearly as active as you should have been earlier on in this as far as climbing. Your very first thing you asked me about when we talked on Discord was ships, and that you really wanted to get better with ships. So the very first advice I'm going to tell you is you better use all 5 battles every single day. I know that that's a huge time investment, and that's probably the one thing on the back burner that goes to the wayside, but you need to use every single one of your opportunities to climb, and even possibly use 50 crystals to refresh and do 10 battles a day to climb up. Now, we got to get you the right team, so when you climb, you don't just immediately fall back down, and you have a lot of the pieces. Now, the Executrix is a phenomenal ship, the second best ship in my opinion, but for where you're at, easily going to be as good as anything. And you're currently using Biggs, the TIE Advanced, and the Imperial TIE Fighter. Well, you have the TIE Advanced in there. You don't have the Imperial TIE Fighter in here yet, and you should, because the Imperial TIE Fighter is a phenomenal ship. Now, when I look at ships, one of the things that is an issue is your pilot's gear level. It looks like you focused on certain characters for Arena, but maybe not so much for specifically pilots. What's cool about these pilots is many of these pilots are good in multiple areas of the game, and so you don't waste the gearing of them because you get to use them both in ships and many other places. For example, the TIE Fighter pilot can be used pretty much everywhere in the game, and he's got the Imperial TIE Fighter. So you definitely want to level him up. And gear is really the most important thing, the gear and the abilities and their mods, to make sure that your ship is more impactful. But in the first 5, you want obviously Biggs, the TIE Advanced ship, and then you want that Imperial TIE Fighter ship. And then the other 2 ships you don't have developed are all the way down here at the bottom. Very, 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 very sad. Side note, the Biston U-Wing's phenomenal, but you don't have it developed. Also the First Order TIE Fighter and the TIE Reaper. And so the 2 ships down here that are the most important, the 2 best ships in the game, I'm telling you, are the First Order TIE Fighter, and obviously you're going to have to develop the pilot, and this is like the Han Solo of ships. What I mean by that is he does more damage than any other ship. He's consistent, does a ton of damage, and speeds up really fast, has a lot of turn meter gain. So this is one of those 2 best ships. The other, of course, is TIE Reaper. TIE Reaper slows your opposing's capital ship down, preventing it from ever getting to its ultimate ability and allowing you time to kill all of the ships that they have. So you're going to have to develop these. Now, I see you have Death Trooper, pretty developed, and that's really good, but you're going to have to also work on Shore Trooper. Shore Trooper is one of the 2 best tanks on the dark side, so you definitely want to develop him regardless. Now, you did mention you wanted a little bit of information on, heroic AAT and maybe what to do with dark side territory battles, light side territory battles, all that. And one of the teams that you can kind of build right now, which is going to do pretty good, you're just missing one of the key elements, is in the heroic AAT, you can use your CLS as a leader in the heroic AAT. Of course, this is going to be a kind of a end of phase 3, beginning of phase 4 team. Works really, really well, but you can use CLS, R2-D2, and keep in mind this is going to be almost exactly like your arena team that I suggested. Grand Admiral Thrawn, of course Han Solo, and CLS and Han Solo can be utilized for turn meter reduction in phase 3, so that is good. And then the last would be BB-8, and you don't currently have BB-8. Now, you did tell me that you have started to work on the First Order. It looks like there's a little bit of work with Kylo Ren and Captain Phasma. I would not worry about any more gear on them for now, and I would worry about farming up the other farmable characters. That's the TIE Pilot, Stormtrooper, and Officer. And then I know Kylo Ren Unmasked and the Special Forces TIE Fighter will probably become farmable sometime in the next 6 weeks or so. And so those are possibilities, but you're a lot further along with the First Order Stormtrooper and TIE Pilot. And the TIE Pilot's one of those characters you are going to use a ton, hopefully, in the Ships Arena, if you get serious with Ships Arena. Once you have these guys developed 7 stars, gear 8 or 9, you should be able to get BB-8 without any problems. You can also use this team in Territory Wars, so it's a great team for the Territory Wars because they get a ton of bonuses as a defensive team. You can also use them in Territory Battles as well. I know I've been beating this drum for a long time, but of course the Resistance need developed, and most of yours are. Now, I know you haven't done a whole lot with Resistance Pilot, but when you ultimately want to build a couple of teams for the Heroic AAT, they're basically going to be 2 teams that you'll build, and you'll use all 8 of the Resistance characters. So every Resistance character that's in the game, including the new Rey and the new BB-8, which I know you're working towards the characters for Rey as well, those all 8 characters will be utilized in 2 teams, and the 2 teams combined can do roughly between 10 to 30 million based on how far you've developed them. It's a huge variance, but it really depends on, what your gear level is and how fast they are, and what their abilities are leveled up at and things like that. But I've seen many, many screenshots of these 2 teams doing over 30 million combined between the Resistance in Phase 2 and then this Jedi Rey team with BB-8, R2-D2, CLS, and Han Solo in Phase 3 and 4. So that would get you through Heroic AAT, and of course you said you're working on First Order. I also, of course, suggest Resistance for a Heroic AAT team, and then also for Territory Wars as an offensive team, and then Territory Battles, it's the best team in the game for light side territory battles. As far as dark side territory battles, I do want to give you a team to chew on so you have something to work towards on the dark side territory battles. This is the second best team, and it's the one that you're probably the closest at completing. And so we're looking at Death Trooper, General Veers, Snow Trooper. You already have Stormtrooper to 7 stars, so that would probably make sense over Shore Trooper, although Shore Trooper is the better of the two, and Shore Trooper you're going to use in ships. And then, of course, Colonel Stark, you actually do want to farm, and you want to gear up. And I know his farm is out of the guild store, and he doesn't drop there too often. He's kind of hard, like the old school days of trying to get Rey before she was farmable out of the guild store, or Jen Urso used to be out of the guild store, or I remember trying to get the Jawa engineer was a pain in the butt. Well, Colonel Stark's now that guy that's difficult and kind of a pain in the butt to get, but you definitely want to buy those packs whenever you get a chance to buy his packs, because you're going to want to use him. He is an MVP on an Imperial Trooper team, and he's actually required as a required unit in the dark side territory battles. So definitely want to develop him out, but you're looking pretty good on Imperial Troopers as far as the star levels on most. You're just going to have to obviously continue farming a few of them and then gear them all up. I would continue gearing them up as high as you can. I know you're a Dolphin, so probably for you around gear 10 is about where I would be shooting for. High gear 9, low gear 10, that should take you far enough, and that way you can work on others. If you can get to obviously gear 11, that would be optimal. All right, Grimm and Steve-O's Falcons, looks like you got pretty good ship advice. You just really need to start focusing on ships, and there's a few key ships you're missing. The TIE Reaper is going to really take you to the next level, and so will the First Order TIE Pilot. Not utilizing the First Order TIE Pilot is severely hindering you, but I can see the amount the Fleet Arena Battles one is only at 177, which means it's really due to inactivity as to why you're not higher up on there. So you're going to want to get more active if your ships really are important, which was the first thing that you asked about. And then, of course, with your arena team, this is a fun team, you know, with the Foresight, and I know it's one of the few Zetas you have, but I would mix it up and put CLS, R2-D2, Han Solo, Old Ben, and Thrawn. Or if your Old Ben you feel like isn't developed enough, you could go ahead and use your General Kenobi. That is a fresh gear 12 in there. And then remember, for Heroic AAT, you're going to want to get BB-8s to work on First Order and continue working on all the other Resistance characters, and your Imperial Troopers would be a great dark side. As always, if you have suggestions for Grimm, leave them in the comments down below, and keep your gaming on. Warrior, out.